Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Up for Debate. I am Sean Jennings, joined as always by the man who writes the songs that makes the whole world sing. It is Matt Mariani. Hello, Matt.
That was a really nice intro, Sean. That was very, made me feel good. Made me feel very good.
Well, Matt, we have the next hour to totally crush your creative spirit. Don't worry.
Yes, that will not be hard to do. Trust me. But looking forward to it anyway.
Yeah, we got a real fun one here. You know, folks may remember, obviously everyone's listened to every episode of the show, so I shouldn't have to tell you. But, just in case you forgot, we famously, quite a while back, I'm trying to track down when exactly we did it, but we did one of our famous Creative Challenge episodes where we created our own story, and it was a choose-your-own adventure was sort of the concept of that, Matt. And if you don't remember, we sort of started with a generic prompt, and then you and I would each take turns sort of narrating a paragraph or a section of the story, but then we would leave it with three choices for the next person to pick one and then continue the story. Does that make sense?
That definitely makes sense. Yeah, it's all coming back to me. It's all coming back to me. I remember we had some of our most iconic moments doing Creative Challenge. You remember the Ottoman Full of Blood?
That was the very first time we wrote a story. That was a disaster. No, our Creative Challenges, I would argue, have failed more than they've succeeded. So tonight is hopefully going to be an exception, not a rule.
Do you remember the infamous board game episode, Sean?
I do remember Create Your Own Board Game. I remember Create Your Own Restaurant.
How long I don't remember so well.
Oh, you don't remember the restaurant you pitched where all the food was like cooked and served by a robot, but every so often randomly the robot would come to life and start killing people and you'd have to escape?
What was the name of that restaurant?
I do not remember. I just remember I told someone this story the other day for some reason. I was like, yeah, Matt came up with this idea.
Yes.
Yeah, or obviously, I think our most successful ever was coming up with our baseball team.
Yes, our minor league baseball team.
Our Tacoma Grits.
We wrote commercials. That
was successful. So it's been a mixed bag, but I think this concept worked well last time. We're going to give it another shot, take turns telling a story, and by the time the next hour is done, who knows where we'll have ended up. Now, Matt, we've got to start with a prompt. We got to start somewhere. Now, last time I kicked us off. I can do that again, or if you would like to set up the initial part of the story, you're welcome to. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
No, it's okay. I'm ready to do it. I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, Matt, officially kick off story time on Up for Debate.
Okay. So, let's see. It's raining outside currently. This isn't part of the story. It's raining outside where I'm here, so it's giving me some inspiration to make I know. Okay. So, are you the main character, or do we have people like main characters? I forgot how that went.
No, we're just you and I are narrating as third party.
Okay.
Omnipotent narrators. So there's characters you have to create characters within the story.
All right. So, it was a dark and stormy night. The young couple are driving in their car, and they realize it is starting to rain. So, of course, they pull the top up on their classic 1970s convertible, and they drive on down the road, continuing down the road, and all of a sudden they get a flat tire. They hit something, and they go, "Oh, what was that?" "I don't know, but we got to pull over because the car's not moving all of a sudden." So they get out and they check the front tire. Nothing's there. They check the other tire and the back, and sure enough, there's a big hole in it. And oh no. Since this is the 1970s, says the lady in the front seat, there's no way that we can contact anybody and tell them where we are and that we need help. So I think the only thing left to do is ask around. Well, I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere. I guess we could try that big scary house on the on the hill that's overlooking the road. And sure enough, they look over there. There's a big mansion, and there's lightning in the background. Very dramatic scene. So they, they both say like, "Well, I'll go, and you wait with the car." And like, "No, you can't leave me here. We'll go together." So they walk up through the path, and they knock on the door of the big creepy mansion. And sure enough, who's on the other side, Sean?
Well, so now you give me three choices.
Okay. Right.
Is it A?
Okay. On the other side, is it a large, grotesque figure, mostly shrouded in shadow? Is it a short, hunched over assistant with a wild look in his eyes? Or there's no answer at all?
After knocking on the door creaks open very slowly. And though most of the house inside is dark, what they see in front of them directly is a small, hunched-over, assistant-type person who is standing there at the door. Our couple, their names, it's the 70s, Evelyn and Carol, two women who aren't legally married, because that's not a thing you can do, but they are a couple, stand there confused at this feeble gentleman. He's not old. He's just tired and hunched over. Carol turns and says to the man, "Excuse me, do you happen to have a phone? We have a flat." The man just looks at them, stares for just a moment too long, then without saying a word, turns and walks into the house. Carol and Evelyn take that as a sign that they should enter the property. They walk inside the door. What do they see, Matt? Is it A, a dusty mansion with all of the furniture covered in drop cloths, a place that looks like it hasn't been lived in a long time? Do they see B, a whooping, hopping party with everyone dressed to the nines having a groovy time in the 1970s? Or is it C, it's so pitch black they don't see anything?
Carol and Evelyn enter the house, the large room, and are amazed to find the biggest, hoppingest party that the 70s has ever seen. They were so excited, they forget all about their car troubles for the moment and just decide to get in the groove, you know. And lo and behold, they see a massive crystal disco ball in the center of the room. Carol turns to Evelyn, and being the more adventurous one in the couple, she says, "All right, come on, let's cut loose. Who cares about that crummy old car, Daddy-O? Let's get on the dance floor and really turn this notch up." Evelyn, of course, the ever-present prude of the relationship, says, "Gee, I don't know. Wouldn't it be better to just, like, I don't know, ask somebody about our car? Like that old assistant guy, he looked a little weird, but like maybe he might have a phone we could use or something." And then Carol's, but lo and behold, she's actually talking to no one, because Carol is already on the floor, shaking her groove thing and cutting loose with all the people around. Three different people approach her simultaneously. She knows that she can only talk to one of them before the party kind of sweeps her away. Does she talk to the waiter bringing around hors d'oeuvres? Does she talk to who is he looks a little suspicious, like he's got a secret that he's not telling. Does she talk to the young lady who is dressed like an Egyptian pharaohess, or does she talk to the insurance salesman who is also at the party?
Matt, I am going to make a choice, but I'm going to skew the format a little bit. I want you to play Evelyn in the following conversation.
Okay.
Excuse me, would you like a bacon-wrapped scallop?
I really... Wait, is Evelyn... Did I say Evelyn was the prude, or is Caroline?
No, you said Evelyn was the prude.
Evelyn's... Okay. Well, I don't know. Scallops kind of upset my stomach, and, I think I should probably pass, but thank you anyway.
They were freshly pulled out of the water this morning.
Oh, did you say bacon wrapped? On second thought, I'm a vegetarian. I don't really mess with that stuff.
Oh, would you like me to talk to the chef for you?
Yeah, I think it's always probably a good idea. So, you don't have to talk to them if you have other more like vegan friendly options out here. But there are some party guests who don't partake in meat, and I think it's always important to be aware of that.
Well, why don't you join me in the back and meet the chef?
Now, Evelyn at this point, obviously flanked. Does she turn and talk to the woman dressed in Egyptian garb? Does she turn and talk to the insurance salesman? Or does she join the waiter to meet the chef?
Yeah, I guess there's no harm in meeting the chef. That sounds kind of cool. Yeah, so Evelyn says, yeah, I guess we could talk to the chef, sure. It's always important to make people aware of vegan-friendly options. I've got a few recipes if you'd like me to share them.
Come join me in the kitchen.
Okay, so Evelyn follows him to the kitchen. And on the way, she notices that many of the party guests are wearing masks, and she's not sure why. She kind of feels like she should ask about this. So she asks the man leading her, what's with these masks? Like, why is everybody wearing a mask in here?
Oh, you see, we have certain secrets we don't want to share.
Well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sure, it doesn't really answer why everyone's wearing masks, but
I don't think I could have possibly been more clear.
Okay, could I get a mask? Is there any chance I could wear one too? Just I like to fit in when I go places.
Do you have any secrets?
I have. How much time have you got? I've got tons of secrets, says Evelyn.
I don't have that much time. You see, I have to serve hors d'oeuvres and cocktails to the party. But I suppose I could take a few minutes to hear your secrets.
Well, I guess there is one secret. She looks around just to make sure nobody is listening. And she pulls out from her pocket the biggest, shiniest looking engagement ring. And she says, well, Caroline and I were going on a beautiful weekend together, and we got kind of sidetracked with the flat tire and everything. And I'm probably going to ask her, to be my life partner on this journey.
Well, isn't that... I mean, the teachings of God say that's a sin, but I suppose we all have our secrets. Here, take a mask. You deserve it.
Oh, I find your ideology a little problematic, but I'll take your mask and wear it anyway. Just because, I like to I like to blend in wherever I go. It just seems culturally appropriate, you know. But I think I'd like in the future if, you know, I don't think we see eye to eye, so perhaps you keep your opinions to yourself and I'll keep them to myself.
Weren't we going to meet the chef?
Yeah, I guess we can meet this chef, but I mean, if he's as closed-minded and judgmental as you, I don't know if I want to meet him.
I'm not paid enough to deal with this. Please, go see the chef.
All right. So the hors d'oeuvre waiter points to, I was going to call him the hors d'oeuvre man, but that doesn't make sense. The waiter points to the very back of the hall, and it is a kind of mostly closed off. You wouldn't know it unless it was clearly pointed out, but there is one small wooden door that goes back to, it looks like it goes beyond the large oak wall. And so she walks up to it. Does she knock on the door? Does she open the door and try the knob, opening the door? Or does she wait until somebody else enters and then follow them in?
Evelyn walks over after a very strange confrontation with the waiter and decides she's a bit of a prude. She's going to knock on the door. Do the polite thing first. So she knocks on the door.
All right.
She hears from the other side, swing, psh, and a knife tip pops out from the other side of the door. Clearly, the chef is maybe not interested. Evelyn kind of leans up to the door. May I come in? And the chef goes, ugh. For some insane reason, Evelyn takes that as a reason to open the door. She opens the door and peeks in. Inside, she finds a rather nice kitchen. Spacious, palatial, plenty of room for making all sorts of good treats for the party guests. Behind the counter, she finds the largest man she's ever seen. This man must weigh 400 pounds, is 6 feet tall. He's utterly enormous, but he's working on these very fine pieces of cooking with his very large hands. He's chopping something up. She only sees the back of him, but he turns around and says, I am the chef. Matt, what does he say next? Does he say, A, and who are you in my kitchen? Or does he say, and are you here to pick up more hors d'oeuvres? Or does he say, Evelyn, I'm actually your father.
Whoa. Dad, Evelyn said? No. Are you here to pick up more hors d'oeuvres? Says the big fat chef. Evelyn says, well, am I what? But before she could respond, a tray is thrust into her hand. And the chef begins filling it with the fine foods that he's cooking up. All kinds of, really, those delicious little mini hot dogs, wrap pigs in a blanket, fill her tray. Evelyn is utterly disgusted by this. Of course, being a very open and announced vegetarian slash vegan, because I think she's both in the context. And she says, well, actually, but before she could finish her sentence, she's pushed out the door with the mask on. She looks just like any one of the other waiters or waitresses in the scene. Well, that was certainly odd, but I guess I won't be allowed back in there to see the chef again until I serve all of these hors d'oeuvres. So let me go back out there, and I'll help out. I'm a helper. I try to help people when I can. And, I ever since I ditched that community service job back at the academy, I felt like I really had this hole in my heart missing for serving others. So I'm going to go and serve these cocktail weenies, even though I find them repulsive. But, it's not for me to condemn others. So she starts serving the cocktail weenies out to the various people. Does she first go to the young lady in the Cleopatra outfit? Does she serve the cocktails to the insurance salesman? Or does she go over to where she thought Caroline was standing?
As Evelyn leaves the kitchen, the original waiter, whose name is Gareth, whispers under his breath, "One of us, one of us." And as Evelyn leaves the kitchen, as you mentioned, looking like any other waiter at the party, her mind starts to fog up a little bit. She starts to remember things that aren't actually her memories. Sure, she remembers meeting Carol at the academy, falling in love, kindling a romance, buying that 1970s convertible, which, because it's the 1970s, is not a classic car. But she also starts to remember other things, like this strange, spooky house, the hunchback assistant, whose name is Paul. She remembers when it wasn't a strange, spooky house. She remembers the before times. Suddenly it becomes a little bit harder to start to remember Carol. She starts to forget certain things. At this point, Evelyn is suddenly snapped out of it when the insurance salesman begins yelling at her, "My pigs in a blanket are not hot enough! They need to be hotter!" So she snaps into it and says, "Wait, what is going... How am I remembering these? I've got to find Carol." So she runs over to try and find Carol. But when she reaches the middle of the dance floor with a tray now absent of any pigs in a blanket, Carol is not there. Matt, where is Carol? Is she upstairs? Is she passed out on the floor? Or is she back out in the car?
Evelyn looks around frantically. Where could Carol have gone? She was just here. Before I wandered off with that extremely judgmental waiter, I figured that she would just be here chatting it up with one of these eccentric party guests. But maybe she went to the powder room. Maybe she went to go and use the bathroom or something. We had been in the car for a very long time, and it was raining and everything. We never really stopped. Come to think of it, how long were we in that car? Where were we going? Why were we in the car to begin with? I need to find Carol. That's all. I'll sort all the rest of this out later. She goes over to the. She turns to the extremely aggravated insurance salesman and says, "I'm really sorry to do this, but where is the bathroom? Where is the powder room? I have to just collect myself a moment, and I'll come right back to the party." "What? Why, it's upstairs," says the insurance salesman. But of course you knew that, didn't you?" She doesn't know what he meant by this last comment, but she thanks him in a hurry and goes upstairs. There's only, as it turns out, the powder room is easy enough to find because there is a big embroidered sign that says powder room right on the door. She thought that's pretty neat of them to label it very clearly. So she goes to open the door. She finds out that it's stuck and it won't open from the other end. She thinks, what this is. She knocks frantically. Carol, are you in there?" But a voice responds, and it is not Carol. Is it? A gruff, lowly voice of probably a 50 to 60 something year old man. Is it a light, airy, almost flute-like voice that perhaps permeates from a small child or some kind of elf? Or is it only beeps and bloops that would come from a machine?
Evelyn frantically knocks on the door. Carol, are you in there? Oh my God, what is that? Says Evelyn. She's shocked. She doesn't know what these sounds are because robots aren't that common in the 1970s. She said, there's some sort of mechanical sound. I've got to get in there, but she tries the knob again. It's clearly locked. I've got to find some way in. So she looks around the rest of the upstairs. It's a hallway with several doors. She walks down the hall and sees 3 doors in front of her. One of the doors says, Secret Laboratory, do not enter. The next door says, Nursery. And the third door says, well, you can't read what it said because it was aggressively scratched out in a very aggressive fashion. Matt, which door does she go in?
She suddenly remembers, like almost like a flash. It bursts back into her memory, like a bull raging through a storm. And she says, "Oh, that's right. I studied science at the academy. I'm a scientist. I know my way around a laboratory. Maybe I can concoct something that will let me into that room, making all the strange robot noises." So she heads for the lab. Oh, flinging the door open, she is surprised. Because when she goes to grab one of the beakers from the table, her hand goes right through it, almost like it is a ghost or phantom of some kind. She goes to grab the beaker again, and sure enough, it's like almost like a hologram, which she wouldn't know what that was. It being the 1970s, she would have a very vague knowledge of such a thing, maybe from all the Star Trek she watched as a kid. This is pretty trippy, she says. What a gassy looking lab. And I don't know what to do. I can't seem to grab any of the objects in this lab. My head is getting kind of light now that I think about it. And you know, she's never able to finish that thought to herself because her eyes grow extremely heavy and she falls to the floor. Minutes, hours, days, who knows, pass before she opens her eyes again. And she sees a bright light and 3 figures standing over her. She doesn't recognize 2 of them, but one appears, at least at first, to vaguely resemble Caroline. Standing next to her is either the weird assistant-looking guy that answered the door for her, hunched over, or the insurance salesman that she met at the party, who was very rude about the mini hot dogs, but she could understand they were a little lukewarm after all. Or is it the extremely judgmental waiter?
So there's 4 people.
And Caroline. No, it's either... Well, she can't make out the third. The third is shady. One is maybe Caroline. One is still... She still doesn't see. And one is any of these 3 people. They all kind of look the same. She got... You know, she's very drowsy.
Wow. So, Evelyn, heavy eyes slowly begin to open, and she's just blinded by the brightest of lights. And she hears these noises flying by her head. Oh, slowly her eye clear. Oh, she's under a street light on the highway. Oh, it's blinding. Her eyes slowly come to. Standing there is a vague man she can't make out who just walks away. He's not part of the story. Then she sees Caroline and one of the other 3 characters. Let's say it's the insurance salesman. She knows who Caroline is. So she turns to the insurance salesman. From the ground, the insurance salesman sort of standing over her. From the ground, she reaches up, grabs him by the lapels. Why are you doing this to me? Who are you? What are you all about? The man rips himself away from her hands and nicely fixes up his jacket and his hat. He says, ma'am, I'm part of a special organization that's tasked with dealing with special kinds of people. And I've got to tell you something. There's a very special person here, and her name is Caroline. Dramatic reveal. Evelyn's confused. I mean, she went to the Academy for Science. She's the one who did the weird ghost thing. It's all very confusing. Evelyn finally starts to get up and looks around. That's really strange. None of these cars really look like the cars she's used to seeing in the 1970s. Is that because, Matt, they're A, cars from the modern time, B, old Model Ts from the 1920s, or all of the cars are hovering?
This is kind of new to me, she says. I don't remember any cars in my time that look quite like this. What are you talking about? The insurance salesman says, or the would-be insurance salesman says. Get yourself together. It's these cars. This is how they've always looked. No, this is all wrong. This is all wrong. There are so many of these cars. What year are we in? Why, this is 2007, man. We're 2007. Wow. It was just 1970. I don't know what could have happened. I was in the lab and I dozed off and all of a sudden there's all these new cars around, and she starts going into like a panic and she doesn't know what to do. So is Caroline with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, Caroline leans in and just smacks her across the face. Pull yourself together. We're never going to get out of this until you start listening to what Dr. Williker has to say. She says, Dr. Williker? She turns to the would-be insurance salesman. But Dr. Williker's dead. He was dead in 1970. In fact, he should be dead now in 2007. She turns over to Caroline. Right. He died on that fateful day during that experiment that we never talked about again. Didn't he? Caroline says, well, not exactly. Did Dr. Williker accidentally invent time travel through his experiment, leading Caroline to believe that he had died in the process? Is Dr. Williker a code name that they just give to every scientist that is engaged with this special project? Or did Dr. Williker fake his own death for the insurance?
You see, Evelyn, I'm not the Dr. Williker you know. I come from a long line of Dr. Willikers. We may seem similar, but over time, Dr. Willikers have kept the human race on track. We do the dirty deeds that must be done. We are the underbelly of society. We are the organization of Dr. Willikers. We're working on an acronym. We don't have one yet. If you have any ideas, we're open to them. I'm shocked we haven't come up with one because we've been around for thousands of years. But acronyms are hard, damn it. And so, I've brought you here through a means that will be explained later in the story. But we need you, Evelyn. We need you and your science brain. Because there's a crisis that needs to be solved here in 2007. You see, we need you to stop, is it, A, the impending financial collapse, B, the, I'm definitely not Googling things that happened in 2007.
You lived through it, Sean. You should know.
Is it, no, those are just birthdays. That's not helpful. What happened in 2007? Okay.
The Iraq War was going on.
What year did the not the Challenger, the Columbia shuttle?
Oh, I think that was. I thought it was 2006.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm definitely googling that. That was.
Boy, I'm very bad at this. Maybe nothing interesting happened. Okay. We need you to listen to me, Evelyn. We need you to either stop the impending financial crisis, stop that crazy astronaut lady from driving across the country in a diaper. Do you remember that? Or we need you to stop Zack Snyder from making 300 so that he never makes the DC Extended Universe.
Listen, Evelyn, things are in motion right now that you can't possibly comprehend. Things that will have drastic impact on the future of this nation, the future of this world. We are here to stop a very, very significant event from ever occurring. There's no way, if we allow it to happen, that the repercussions are almost endless. We need to get the timeline back on path. And Evelyn says, "Oh, okay. 2007. I still can't believe we're in the future, but." What kind of things are happening that we need to stop? Is it an alien invasion? Are we here to stop like a war of some sort to happen? The Soviet Union, maybe they are about to nuke the capital or something. No, Evelyn, a movie is going to come out soon called 300. Directed by Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder owns the Washington football team.
Zack Snyder, yeah.
Though we should stop him too.
That's right. That's where the confusion was. He should be stopped. Yes, he should be stopped before he ever bought the team. Zack Snyder, yes, is he's going to make this movie 300. A movie? What are you talking about? 300? What? What are we... Never mind that. I told you, I have no time to explain. We need to stop this movie from ever happening. Otherwise, the repercussions on this world will be catastrophic. Okay, all right. We need to go. Nobody's going anywhere, says Caroline. Nobody is going anywhere. She reaches into her lab coat pocket and pulls out a 9mm pistol or a beaker with a glowing greenish blue, mostly blue, liquid, or a cell phone, which I guess would be, well, no, it's
nobody's going anywhere, says Evelyn. Says Carol as she pulls out her Nokia Razor. You see, I made you bring me here for a reason. Nobody understands the brilliance of Zack Snyder. You see, they let him make 300. But that wasn't enough. Then he made Watchmen, but that wasn't enough. Then he made Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. But that wasn't enough. And then he made Sucker Punch, and we all agree that one was bad, but they still allowed him to run an entire cross-platform, multi-dimensional film and television entertainment experience. Zack Snyder is a genius. You see, a genius. He knows how to make things in slow-mo and then come out of slow-mo very quickly. I will not let you stop his brilliance. That's why I'm on the phone with... Is she on the phone with the current president, George W. Bush? She's on the phone with the head of Warner Brothers. Or is she on the phone with Pizza Hut because she's hungry?
Yes, Pizza Hut.
This is Carol.
Carol.
I know who that is.
We're on the side
You
of
know,
the hut.
Carol from the 70s?
We're on the... I would like 3 large stuffed crust. Do you deliver to the estate of Zack Snyder, perhaps? That's where I'm located. Yeah. He'll sure appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, can you have your delivery person meet us outside? Zach, when he gets in his creative moods, he doesn't want to be disturbed. So I'll bring the pizzas in myself. Okay. We'll meet by the gate. Yeah, the usual. Oh yeah. We're doing fine. All right. Thanks, Brian. Okay. So she hangs up. What was that about? Asks Dr. Williker. Well, no, the Pizza Hut guy and I used to date. So it's a long story. Way back, goes way back to high school. Very messy. We don't want to go there. But he does let me bring the pizzas into Zack Snyder's estate for him. So I figure that might be a good way inside. Brilliant, says Dr. Williker. We'll get inside of Zack Snyder's estate by bringing in pizzas. Come, Evelyn, let's go. So
they take a taxi.
Uber. Well, no, it's still too early for Uber. It's 2007. They hail a cab, and the cab, is used to starstruck people. I'm assuming they're in LA. But he just assumes, oh, these are just some fans of Zach's. They want to camp outside of his house and have posters and stuff. So, all right. Brings him to Zack Snyder's house where they wait for the pizza person, the Pizza Hut delivery. And sure enough, Brian from Pizza Hut shows up with those, hey, Caroline. Long time no see. All right, I got your 3 pizzas here. I guess you're all going to bring them inside to Mr. Snyder. Yeah, okay, we'll bring them inside. Thanks. Okay. So they are outside the gate, and they, before they go in, they notice Zack Snyder's house looks a little bit like the mansion that Evelyn remembers being in the 1970s. But quickly her image fades back into the modern day, and so she... They ring the gate, and the gatekeeper answers and says, "What's the passcode?" And Caroline goes, "Passcode? This is new. He didn't used to have a passcode." But for some reason, Caroline knows exactly, or Evelyn knows exactly what the passcode is. Is it written on the underside of the pizza box? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, or is there actually no passcode? And this is just a test.
Evelyn looks under the pizza box. Not really sure why. That's not a normal thing people do. But underneath it, she finds a written code. She thinks to herself, Brian, done it again. And so she enters the code into the gate and expands it open. As the gate opens, the crew begins to walk in. At this point, they've beaten up Brian and have stolen his and his spare Pizza Hut driver uniform, so they look like they're Pizza Hut delivery people. Evelyn's thinking in her head, gosh, all this seems so familiar. It's like I've been here before. But I can't have been here before. That's not possible. They walk up to the front door of Zack Snyder's estate and ring the bell. Zack Snyder's bell sounds like Zack Snyder. That's what it says. It says Zack Snyder. You ring the bell. Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder. They keep ringing the bell. Zack Snyder. He doesn't answer it yet. Finally, Zack Snyder comes and gets it. Evelyn, confused, because really she hasn't gotten much explanation of what's going on up to this point, says, a pizza delivery for you? And he goes, oh, great. Oh, pizza. I get pizza all the time from Pizza Hut. This is great. Hey, why don't you guys come on in? I'm working on my new movie, 300. So they enter the house and follow Zack Snyder, and as Evelyn looks around, she keeps thinking more and more, gosh, it's like I've been here before. Zack turns to her and says, hey, why are you wearing that Pizza Hut uniform? Are you working with these other Pizza Hut delivery people? You don't have to do it. And Evelyn says, well, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, you shouldn't be wearing a Pizza Hut uniform. You're A, Lena Headey, star actress of the film 300. B, his live-in maid, Consuela. Or D, Zack Snyder's stalker, Cindy, who Zack is actually really cool with because he's got a twisted mind. So he actually loves the fact he has a stalker and hangs out with her all the time.
Yeah, Zack says, I just figured, since I offered you that lead role in my new movie, I figured you'd have all the money you could want. Why are you delivering pizzas at Pizza Hut? Is this a prank? Am I on Punk'd with Ashton Kutcher, a show that was very popular in 2007? Wait, what are you talking about? I'm not a star of a movie. I just want to go back. She sits down on the ground and starts blubbering and crying. I just want to go back to the car. I don't understand what is happening to me. What is going on? Dr. Williker, whispers something really quickly to Carol, and Carol says, "Hey there, I don't really know what I don't know what to say. Why are you so upset? We were having a great time here at Zack Snyder's house. Frankly, you're kind of embarrassing me right now." And then she ends mid-sentence and she turns around and punches Zack Snyder right in the face. Zack Snyder is stunned and he reels back, but just before he can catch himself on the table, she grabs a Pizza Hut box and smashes it over his head. Run, go, get the tape, get the tape, get the tape. So she runs in, they grab the tape. We have to go. We have to go get out of here. Really, we have to bring this tape to the lab where we can dissect it. All right. So then they run out of Zack Snyder's place. After the men, Zack Snyder summons an army of robots that fly. His inspiration, in fact, for the future upcoming Justice League film. And then all of a sudden, an army of Spartans appears and is also chasing them. They run really fast, and they make it all the way to the top of this big hill, and it's overlooking all of Los Angeles. Carol turns over to Evelyn and says, "Quick, we need to go in the time portal, in the car that is parked suspiciously on the side of the road, the van. It's like a discreet black van. Or we need to go back to Zack Snyder's house. I dropped my keys. I dropped my Nokia phone and my keys when I was running out."
Damn it, Carol. You drop your phone all the time. We are not going back to Zack Snyder's house. I guess we can get in this suspicious black car. Evelyn runs over, opens the doors, and goes to get in when suddenly she's knocked out cold. Dr. Williker and Carol standing over her unconscious body. "Damn it," says Dr. Whitaker. "I can't believe you brainwashed Lena Headey into thinking she was a time traveler from the 1970s in order to get us inside Zack Snyder's house." Carol says, "Yeah, in retrospect, we probably could have just posed as Pizza Hut delivery people. We didn't really have to do the whole Lena Headey thing, but I guess it did distract him." Dr. Whitaker says,
Well, now that we've got the final print of 300, what should we do with it? In our hands, we hold one of the most powerful things ever created in the history of mankind. Carol says, I think I know what we should do. Do they? Toss it into a volcano, watch it, and then never speak of it again? Or lock it away in that warehouse, like at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Ark is, where top men are looking into it. Top men.
Radio control to ground. Radio control to ground. This is CR11 copter. Do you copy? We are over the volcano. I repeat, we are over the active volcano. We have the footage in hand. Preparing to deliver the package. You want to do the honors, says Dr. Williker? No. You've been waiting a long time for this, responds Caroline. You got your hands on the prize, finally, at last. I think it's only fitting that you put an end to this. All right, you copy. See you in hell. This, he turns to Caroline, is for Sparta, and then drops it in the volcano. The film bursts into flame. Then he climbing up the ladder back into the helicopter, finally appreciating that it's all over. Both Caroline and Dr. Williker take a seat in the back of the helicopter there. That was a fine display, says the driver or pilot of the helicopter. Oh, why? Thank you. Yeah. I had never really been this close to an active volcano before. Just as he says that, the helicopter lurches quickly to the right. Carolina flies out the window of the helicopter and into the active volcano. What is this? Oh, Dr. Williker. Dr. Williker. We have much to discuss. And then turning around, who's piloting the helicopter? But the man who answered the door, the assistant in the mansion. He's piloting the helicopter.
Wow. That's incredible. But I would like a post-credit sequence where Carolyn is, falling towards her death, and she shouts back, "Just a couple of things! Number one, how did you know that this is Sparta Line if you never actually watched the movie? And also, you called me both Carolyn and Caroline. It's just Carol! You didn't have to... None of that's right! Goodbye!" And she explodes into a volcano. Matt, what an incredible story. What a tale we have weaved here.
What an adventure. You can definitely
but I think it was,
pick that one apart. That one's
I think we tied up most of the loose ends.
motifs.
I will say, I think we did an okay job with that.
Yeah, that's always a fun exercise to do. We survived. I think that we didn't really there wasn't really too many pauses, or we stayed true to the.
And I think our next story has got to be the spin-off tale of the woman in the Egyptian garb, who I think is the one character that we introduced and didn't have a conversation with.
Now, see, she would have been the most interesting, because the way I was setting her up, she was going to be actually 4,000 years old and look really young because of either a spell or
that is awesome.
Potion or something.
And we never found out what the beeps and the boops were behind the bathroom door.
Oh, no, we didn't. I think it was probably one of those robots from Zack Snyder's house. They had programmed one
Lena Headey
to kidnap Evelyn,
who had been brainwashed to think she was in the 70s, but was never. So I want to be clear: there was no time travel that actually occurred. Lena Headey thought she was in the 70s, and Carol pretended she was in the 70s to convince her. She faked a whole romance with brainwashed Lena Headey. Very twisted.
Yeah, all just to, yeah.
That's right.
just
That was
to
their in.
somehow get
Which
to Zack
could have been solved by
Snyder's
just
house.
delivering pizzas. And what was Brian's role in the whole scheme? Yeah.
Brian had a backstory.
I mean, he
that
provided the gate
tragically
code to Zack
unresolved.
Snyder's
Maybe
house, so he wasn't
could
just
be
a
in the
pizza
spin-off,
delivery
I'll
guy.
be
He
there.
was in on something.
That's true. Maybe he was a rival filmmaker that was
Director's
jealous of Zack
named
Snyder.
Brian. He was Brian De Palma, director of 1996's Mission Impossible,
Yeah.
who was out for revenge.
Oh, of course. Yeah. He was jealous because he wasn't invited to film to be on
Also directed the
on
horror
call
film
for 300.
Carrie, as well as many Scarface as well. He directed Scarface.
Oh, okay.
So Brian De Palma, famous director. Yep.
Classic.
Matt, that was a treat. I think we're going to have to revisit this concept at some point. Come back, write another story. It was certainly more cohesive than our last
For
one.
sure.
Great work.
I'll be there.
Hope everyone enjoyed it as much as we did. Matt, we can tease what we're doing next week on the show, which is the book club is back. Have you started Bad Blood?
It is. Not yet, but I will very soon. I just finished the book I was currently reading, so now that opens this up. That I will give it a shot. Actually, the book I was reading turns out you would probably be very interested in. If I had started it a little earlier and had it in time, I would have probably pitched it to you. I was reading.
Oh yes,
It's called Blood, Sweat,
yes,
and
yes. That
Pixels.
just came out, didn't it?
It's very similar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And was it good?
It did. Yeah,
Okay.
it's brand new. Very good. Really good. Yeah, it was. A lot of it reminded. It was in the same vein, I guess, of a lot of it very reminiscent of Console Wars, but more modern, like a more modern take. And it's about like different game studios and like basically all of the really like stressful and chaotic shit they've had to do in order to meet deadlines. It's very, very interesting stuff. They talk about every chapter deals with a different game in a different studio, and pretty much like how the game was extremely close to never seeing the light of day if like X, Y, and Z didn't happen that were like just not like nothing short
I
of miraculous.
confused
things.
this
It's
with
cool
another
book.
book.
Very
The
good book.
author of Blood, Sweat, and Pixels made like a semi-sequel. Did you know about this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that came out in 2017. He literally
Sweat, and
just
Pixels.
released a book in May called Press Reset, which is basically this.
Oh, Press
so I
Reset.
had heard
Yeah,
of
I have heard
okay.
of Press Reset.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Yes.
going to add this to my list. This is great. Good suggestion.
Actually, yeah, he was pitching Press Reset in a podcast I was listening to, and then I think I bought Blood, Sweat, and Pixels actually by mistake, thinking it was that book. But it's a good read, and I'll probably read Press Reset afterwards. But yeah, his writing style is very good. It's it's pretty. I wouldn't say it's eye opening because I mean I'm somebody who knows that the video game industry is a lot less glamorous than it appears to be. But I guess if you're one of those people that's like, well, making video games is fun. It's a dream job. And I'm sure it is a dream job to many, but
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
mean
that's
it's
great.
not
Well,
as
next
stressful
week we'll
as
be
other
reading
jobs,
Bad
too.
Blood by John Carreyrou, and we'll also be talking about the HBO documentary, so make sure you watch that as well. Great book, great story overall, and I'm excited to talk about that next week. But we are going to begin to wrap it up here. I will quickly tease, I always tease up for debate on Don't Panic. I got to tease Don't Panic on Up for Debate. Colby and I did a new episode this week. Matt, we talked about, are you ready for this? Kellogg's, the cereal people, have released a cereal robot. And it's kind of like like a Coke freestyle machine where it's got all the different Cokes and all. They made a cereal bot that you go to it and you can mix different types of cereals with different types of milk and different types of toppings. and you can mix and match all different kinds of stuff, and you get a bowl of cereal. It is now on 2 college campuses. The bowls cost between $2.99 and I think $5.99, depending on what you put on it. But it's like they've got all different dried fruits, they've got nuts, they've got several different kinds of milk, they've got all the different Kellogg cereals. Absolutely incredible. Colby and I go nuts over that.
That is interesting. I'm not a huge cereal eater. But that kind of thing is really interesting.
It's a great gimmick. We talk about that. Many other things. You can check it out at don'tpanic.io or look for Don't Panic wherever you get podcasts. It's a great episode. But, of course, this show is up for debate at upfordebate.tv, where all of the past episodes are. You should join us every week by subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts with a video version on YouTube. And, of course, follow us at upfordebatetv on Twitter or email us upfordebatetv@gmail.com. We have to end it here. We told a great story this week. We're going to talk about a great story next week. But until then, he is Matt. I am Sean. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time for another wonderful episode of Up for Debate.